Last time we had Paradise on the show, you spoke about the possibility of 104K. That level has pretty much been exactly tapped in accordance with your plan. And today, you're back to give us a bit of a run through the current market, because we were discussing prior to recording the possibility of a potential 100K sweep. So there's potentially more pain before we test new Bitcoin all-time highs. But Paradise, welcome back to the show, and I'm looking forward to your analysis today because there's lots happening in the market. On the Bitcoin front, there's also a lot happening on the Ethereum front with ETH BTC reversing. So we're in an interesting spot in the market with Bitcoin looking a little bit precarious whilst having ETH actually looking strong. So there's lots to unpack today, and I think the viewers will find this very informative in terms of coming up with their own game plan for the coming weeks.
For sure, yeah. I was just looking at ETH before. I think it actually looks much better structurally, but I think I'll just give a brief run through Bitcoin first. And like kind of some bullish signs, kind of some bearish signs. I'm kind of neutral myself at the moment. We're just sort of bracketing between two levels, which we'll get to. But this right here is the monthly chart. We just had basically a monthly SFP on this close. So between here and here, you can see, like previously, I'm not saying this is exactly what is going to happen, but you can see with these SFPs in the past on the monthly, it's not necessarily a reason to like pack up shop, but it's always a reason to start paying attention. So this one we had back here, that was pretty much the end of the 2021 cycle. We've had a number of them going up, and you can always see they give some sort of reaction to the downside. And obviously, because it's a monthly, it takes a bit of time to play out. But this one here, November, there was an SFP. We ran as high as 108, and then we got as low as 90,000. So nothing to be ignored. And that's sort of just what I'm watching at the moment to see how these things start playing, how the market reacts. You can see also like the bullish case, we had like nice SFPs down here, and that was pretty much the peak or low at 74K before this move up. So we also had the same thing play out on the weekly.
Could you explain to people quickly what an SFP is if they don't know?
Sorry, a swing failure pattern. So basically when price tries to make a swing into new highs or new lows, basically gets sort of absorbed, and price treats it as like it gets treated as like a reversal signal.
Yeah.
So, basically a wick above a key wick and then a close below it is what's known as a swing failure pattern.
And what typically happens with these patterns? Is this usually like a sign of a reversal or?
Yeah, they're a reversal pattern. And generally, when you see them, you like to see some sort of divergence on RSI, pair up with it, maybe see some like positive, negative delta, indicating trap sellers on the highs or lows. But currently what we're seeing is, we had the monthly, now we've got the weekly. And if we go down to the daily, so while we're watching those two things, there's also this bearish divergence forming on the monthly. Now, it won't actually lock in until the end of this month, so it's nothing actionable yet. You can see kind of...
And that's still 20 odd days away, right?
Yeah, give or take, that's it. You can see this one that we had in 2021, which was pretty much teeing up with that, lining up with that SFP, was kind of, the end of the cycle there. Obviously, we had catalyst events and news and whatnot, but there's just... I'm not really bearish based on it yet, but it's just something where I've been taking caution and I've taken a bit of profit on spot positions. Just sort of, taking it as it comes.
I mean, personally, I view it as like, you can risk it for the biscuit and like, long heavily into resistance, but it's all based on like probabilities. So like most people should, generally speaking, be cautious into resistance and should be a bit more aggressive into support. So taking a bunch of new heavy structural longs in the middle of a range just really isn't, in my opinion, that prudent, which is why typically I'll wait for either confirmation on a breakout. I think in this case it's like 110 to 111K, or I'll wait for like a lower sweep. And that's something we're also going to discuss today, like what that lower sweep could be if it comes. And for me, it's just about like playing the extremities and trying to, obviously on altcoins, you can really, capitalize on those extremities because alts will typically act as a higher beta to Bitcoin. So they'll bleed more if Bitcoin comes down and tests support. Ultimately, I think that'll, those will be opportunities, but you don't want to like front run too much to take on a bunch of risk in the middle of a range.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've had these SFPs form. We've got higher time frame divergences locking in. It's not the sort of place where you go long into resistance. Completely right. Like, when we were having this mark up from 74K all the way up, I was like famously longing resistance on every breakout of these alts. Because just of how strong the trend is, you can just generally, when the meta shifts a bit, you can start longing, into diagonal resistance looking for breakouts, because 8 times out of 10 it'll pan out, especially when you got compression between like trend indicators and whatnot. This right now is like the first sort of structural shift we've had. You've seen it's just been like up and to the right, and this is potentially where we're starting to make a lower high here. And if this locks in on the daily, like I'm breaking this low here, then effectively we've sort of shifted structure. So nothing real action for now, but like the level I keep posting in the group lately is this. So this is the daily level. It's basically resistance twice. You can see that clear as day. You can also see we're kind of having a reaction at it right now. So the levels I've been watching just on the 4-hour time frame was once we started puking down here. Well, actually, this is the original level I had up here. It was once we shifted structure down, basically this was the level to reclaim. We have like a H4 FEG there. We came into it, filled it a few times. I caught a short there. I closed it a bit too early. But basically all I was looking for is us to just bracket in between these 2 points as a range. Now, we did that for a bit, and then we lost it over the weekend or the end of last week. Now, what remains to be seen is whether this is a deviation right now, and then we get back inside, and that could be a long trigger here, targeting at least up at 110K. When we get to 110K, I'm not entirely sure how I'd play it. I think I'd still treat this as resistance, and that'd be another short setup. But if we start flipping
until
that,
proven otherwise.
Exactly. If we start flipping that, find acceptance up here, then I'd be looking for long triggers, because I don't think, all-time high looks pretty easy to run once we're above that. But for now,
that's where fun on alts like could begin. I mean, obviously a lot of the viewers will be wondering about altcoins. Like for me, it's that breakout and that Bitcoin price discovery where alts play catch up really quickly. I think until we get there, people are still going to be just a little bit wary, which is why I would just be looking to like accumulate like major dips and major weakness in the market if you get it, because I still think the macro uptrend is up. I still think Bitcoin makes new highs. So any like major dip on the higher time frames is probably an opportunity to add to like hyper quality stuff. I'll actually talk about in a minute some quality stuff that has been outperforming that I like, but that's my general framework.
Yeah, I'll show you the level I'm been watching for the past week and a bit. It's this weekly fair value gap down here. It's basically an inefficiency in price. I'm sure many people know what an FEG is. This right here. Now, when we look at the weekly FEG, it also lines up with this liquidity pocket down here. So we've got all these stacked lows which haven't been run yet. So I was kind of looking at this like we would get some sort of reversion bounce up into this level. But if we actually close the daily like this as a rejection, now you can see we've swept a bunch of highs here. If we close this bearishly like this, I can see us effectively coming down to take out this. This is not really how a bottom forms on BTC. It's just this sharp wick. I think actually like coming down and running this and potentially giving a dip into that could be a much healthier structure to gather liquidity for upside. So 100K is where I've been watching. 103 was sort of the zone I've been watching for a bottom to form. That was basically because of this demand in here, which is also a bunch of fair value gaps on the lower time frame. So yeah, we had that perfect bounce at 103. I think it's 103.37 or something. But yeah, we get down here. This is where I'm looking to load up big on spot altcoins.
It's like around 100, right? Just for people that can't see it on their phones.
Yeah, sorry. It's 100,700, give or take. So just that zone in there. If BTC comes down here, a lot of alts are going to get absolutely smoked. And like you can see structurally now, a lot of them are printing lower highs and lower lows. So the structure's shifting on a bunch of them. You can also see it quite easily just on the money noodle.
I mean, I would love to bid. I would definitely be probably a big bidder of that zone if we do tag it. So just flagging that to people right now on the show.
The reason I like this,
that's my framework.
The reason I like the zone too is the yearly opens in here. Now, if we start losing this zone and we start losing this demand cluster, especially with the yearly open there, then I think it's going to take a lot longer to recover. And we may potentially chop or just sell off throughout the rest of the year. I'm not quite sure, but that's why I quite like this level. It's kind of the max RR opportunity zone for me. We either bounce there, we don't. I'm pretty quick to cut, take a small haircut, but then I think if we do lose that, the structure's shifted too much anyway. Because you got to look at this for what it is right now. These are your market structure lows here on the daily time frame. We start closing below those, accepting below them, not so good. I think like some sharp wicks into it would be very good. That's why you probably have limit orders set on your favorite altcoins that line up with this, or even at BTC if you're buying spot. But yeah, if we start like trending down into it, accepting, start doing the bearish market structure, then I'll be out of those positions and just waiting or just looking for shorts. But the one thing I wanted to touch on was, the money noodle has been capping price. If we just go to the line chart, since we lost the money noodle over here in like February, we just kept giving it bearish back tests the whole way down. Just couldn't get above it. Then finally we had the compression into it. We popped above, and right now we're having the first retest of it since we broke out. That's always the methodology of like the analogy, of first test, best test, right? We had a nice reaction so far, but we're also being capped by that static resistance point in that 106K level. So kind of hands off for me at the moment, not really much clarity on what to trade. Also to flip that level, we're, once again, getting capped by 4-hour trend on the noodle here. So sort of the double confluence of resistance here, but getting back in and accepting in this old range, then as stated, I will just be treating that as as a deviation. And this is a new range to play. Along the range low, target the range high. If we start flipping that, and I think we take out all-time high.
Yeah, I think the plan on Bitcoin is pretty clear. Before we get into Ethereum, I want to just touch on a point I made before about some of the stronger alts. I actually posted this in my Discord 4 days ago about how I was adding SYRYP because it had a massive decline. It's one of the strongest RWA coins. This is actually up from 34 to 44 this morning, so around 28% already. And it's not just SYRYP, like you're seeing this strong reaction on hype. You're seeing a strong reaction on ASF, which is a coin I spoke about last week, which is stablecoin narrative. You've also got the Circle IPO that's happening later in the week or next week. So I actually think stablecoins, here's a bit of alpha. I actually bookmarked this post earlier. I might talk about this later. I'm doing another show later today. Stablecoins actually could have a good period here, triggered by the Circle IPO. Stablecoins as in stablecoin protocols. Obviously, you can't long USDT and expect to make money. But this is quite interesting because it's like it's going to put the narrative in the public sphere a little bit more, and there are a lot of tradable proxies. So that's something I highlighted in my Discord and on the shows last week. And you're seeing a little bit of outsized strength in coins like this. SYRYP's doing really, really well. I think PENDLE also looks fairly strong. Then you have a strong bounce from Hype as well, which was one of the strongest tokens. I actually posted in the Discord that I was a lot interested in longing around $30. If you go into the daily, you'll kind of see that level. Didn't quite get down to the noodle. If we get down there again, that's definitely the level I'm most interested in bidding, but we'll see what happens on Hyperliquid. Maybe you can chart it later. But the point I'm making is it's interesting because even with Bitcoin weak, you are kind of seeing what's strong right now. So definitely pay attention to these strong narratives, because these are likely going to be the ones that come out of the gates hot if Bitcoin does reclaim or push to the upside. And they're the ones that I was capitalizing on during the dip. There's another coin that's doing really well. I haven't talked about it much. I'm just wary because it's pumped a lot. But the strength on KTA is absolutely insane. Let me see if I can find a better chart, potentially the Uniswap chart. Yeah, this is actually the real chart. It just keeps making new highs. This is a good one to trade at the moment. I wouldn't be longing spot because I just think it's run up too much. But we saw this range form, and this was actually a decent zone to play a breakout. That base pattern that you've spoken about, Paradise. So potentially, if we form something again like in this zone here, you could look to play that as structure, but just keep an eye on that. But the point I'm making is there are a few outlier strong alts in the market, and I would be probably favoring those on dips as opposed to trying to play future rotations that haven't happened yet, just because because the market's so sensitive right now. It's the amount of tokens that are actually pumping during overall rallies has been compressed. Because there's just too much altcoin dilution and whatnot. So better to focus on the strong trends, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's that whole trading attention thing, right? There's limited attention. You just laser focus. What you
this
showed
is the big chart now. This is the big chart, the ETH chart. I wanna take a look at this in ETH BTC.
Yeah, well, just quickly what you're saying about the rally-based rally thing. Yeah, I think because I always get the question, like people see a candle like this here, this big impulse on like, do I buy it here? It's like, no, you're happy to buy higher, but you got to wait for it to like form a base. So I think ETH gives a perfect example of that. There's your rally, here's your base, there's your next rally, here's your next base, then you look for the next rally. Just a side thing for people who are just always looking to FOMO into moves and they've already happened. But yeah, ETH looks much better than BTC structurally to me. Can even look at the ETH BTC chart quickly. Like this right now, like it's had a massive move up. It's a nice sort of base pattern forming. It's got this nice compression into this diagonal at the moment. I'm sure the noodle's also supporting it.
Interesting that ETH's outperforming, considering it's been underperforming for so long. But I guess it was due for a bit of a momentum shift.
Well, I think people are front running the ETH ETF staking announcement, which is likely to happen. Just no one knows when. But there was chatter about it on the weekend, and we just saw all the betas and ETH sort of rise up. But like ETH BTC looks phenomenal, and I know those are famous last words, but we reclaimed like high time frame levels. We've put in like nice sweeps of lows. We're holding like trend now on the daily. I think this looks great. I'm just looking for a break of this. So it's kind of the diagonal is validated once we get the third tap, which we're getting now. I'd like to see some sort of like pullback and compression between the noodle and this, and then looking to just long a breakout of that on ETH.
The flows are actually better on the ETF than Bitcoin right now. Like, it's
correct. Yeah.
It's gaining positive inflows, whereas Bitcoin actually, I think it was negative 300 mil. So
yeah, on Friday, BTC had massive outflows and ETH had massive inflows. So, could be telling us something. But this chart right here, like there's not much for me to do in this range. And that's what I've been saying to people in the group. Like this is just chop sitting here. You can see all the wicks above and below. These are all failed breakouts, right? But for me right now, like we get above this. This is, risk on for ETH and also broader alt market. We get below this. This is probably a short down into this level down here. This level is on my radar because it's like a high time frame weekly pivot. It's resistance. This also goes further left of the chart. It's resistance and support, support, loses it, tested a resistance. We finally blasted through it. So if we get any sort of pullback into that, this is what I'm watching. We have like a 3-day breaker there. It's at the high time frame level. So that would be quite the sell-off. And once again, alts will get cooked. But if BTC comes back into 100K, we might see it sell off a bit harder and it might actually come down into this, even just a wick if you have some greedy bids. But, in terms of just the ETH versus BTC chart, yeah, it looks far better to me at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of altcoins, there's still much more of a stronger rotational effect whenever Ethereum pumps versus Bitcoin because of the institutionalization of Bitcoin. There's a lot more on-chain ETH whales and exchange bidding happening on ETH, just relative to total volume, which I think makes the Ethereum rally a much more positive thing for alt. So I said this on the show last week. Like, if you want altcoins to perform well, even if you don't hold Ethereum, you're probably rooting for ETH BTC to keep going here and keep continuing its uptrend because that's going to be the best thing for the altcoin market. But this also could take time. Like we're looking on the daily here, we could get a breakout, come down, retest. If Bitcoin does pull back, maybe ETH sells off a bit harder because it's also run harder. So you might get like a bit of a wick below that level potentially. So just like, always grain of salt with these things because it's not a guaranteed breakout, but it does look good. And that's something to get like hopeful about, excited potentially, but not reckless.
Yeah. It looks great, but also you don't need to feel FOMO. Like a lot of people see this like, well, I better long this now because it's compressing to that level. And I don't want to see some Chad candle like this and be left behind. But there's nothing wrong with buying higher in structure reclaims. It's actually something I was showing to people with the WIF chart. Yeah, the WIF chart. On my stream the other day was basically, we, in terms of market structure, we lost this structural low. We closed below it. So effectively structure is shifted on the daily bearishly. Now, it was kind of the thing with when price is down here is you can wait for it to deviate under. So effectively, price comes and trades down here, then gets back above, like we were looking on BTC for. And that can be a trigger. Now, this wasn't a trigger to me because it just didn't really spend much time under that. Or you can wait for it to reclaim that structural level. So you are buying higher up, but you're not buying much higher up. Now you have like sort of proof of confirmation of that structure reclaim. Now, this could obviously go up into the supply level and reject, but this looks much better than just sort of buying when it's chopping between this range in here. So it's kind of thing I wanted to get to with spot. You can either, when you're also just taking longer term positions, you're either just looking for a deviation under a level, and once it accepts back above, that can be a trigger that the buyers are there, or you just look for a reclaim of a level that was lost, and that can be sort of your second attempt. So that's like one, that's like two. And that's a really simple way to play all these things instead of just FOMOing into them. If you get a level reclaim, then you are buying high, but yeah, you have confirmation.
I have a question for you. Why you used to run the light charts, these ones here?
Yeah,
these black and white charts, and now you're a dark mode man. What happened?
A couple of members have vision difficulties in the server, so I pivoted for them so they weren't getting blasted during my live streams.
And do you prefer? How are you finding the switch?
I actually don't mind it because I also realized I was getting fried staring at charts at like 11 o'clock at night on like 100% white mode. So this isn't actually too bad. Yeah.
I've considered shifting. Let me know in the comments if I should shift everyone. I've had like people complaining about that as well. I also like what you've done here in the Discord of just this little like text box to highlight coins like Hype, Update, Drift, Jupiter. Like that's quite cool. How you're doing that?
I basically consolidated into one channel, and I'm trying to keep it a lot more like signal instead of noise. So I'm just trying to keep everything very segmented, like very detailed breakdowns, very detailed outlooks. And kind of like you come in the morning, you get the one-stop shop, the whole read on the market. Yeah. And then, that between that and the market outlook videos. And then this one right now that you're seeing, I've just got to archive that because I'm going to pull all my spot positions across. But
So you're just running two channels right now, broader market outlook for thoughts and then your chart channel for like...
Yeah, it's like
setups. Stuff.
Yeah, so set up. So you can see the hype one from this morning. It was the other day. It was a bullish divergence into the lows. It's kind of hit TP1 now. So I'm just trying to get more sort of detailed and thoughtful analysis and everything, so it's less overwhelming for people, and also they get a better understanding of how I do things, so they can follow along.
Link in the description below. Come join Miles High Club if you want the alpha. It's been good recently. It's been very good. We've got a lot of stuff shipping soon as well.
Yeah, it's been nice and constructive for sure. Yeah.
I actually prefer these periods where it's not too, like there are opportunities, but it's not too crazy, because that's where I feel like it's just much easier to focus, and people seem to, be a lot more focused on systems education. So I quite enjoy these periods versus the FOMO. I mean, obviously we make a lot more money in the FOMO periods, but there's no doubt about that. But in terms of like education and learning, these are these are amazing periods. So I recommend you get involved if you're genuinely trying to build an edge and learn in the space.
I'm sure people hate me in the comments for this, but I actually prefer these periods for trading as well, because when you have these select outliers, like when everything's going up, like the rising tide lifting all boats, your sleep is just off the wall, your dopamine zapped. I don't actually mind this if you can play rotations properly. To do that, you just have like this is how my process for it. I use Orion Terminal as well, but I'll basically come in and I have sectors outperforming on the day versus the week. This top one is weekly, this bottom one's daily. Kind of see which sector's leading, and from that, I can then go in, it gives you a readout on the side of those coins. Can then go in and refine it on the other spaghetti chart and actually see, like you can see today, Nero ETH's had a really big move.
I noticed that. It's crazy.
Moodang and POPCAT, so obviously the memes. MOG's the next one. So obviously, if you come into the market at the beginning of the day, where your attention should be focused. Like you're not going to go looking at, random L1s or whatever. You're going to be looking at meme coins right now. Not even looking at AI, right? But you can effectively front run a rotation in AI if memes start to sell off and you see AI picking up. That's why these spaghetti charts are really handy. But that's kind of how I approach each day. I never come in with like, oh, this was good yesterday, I'm going to try to get an entry in that. It's just I sort of have a mental reset overnight when I sleep. I come in and just basically rely on what's on the spaghetti charts, and then that's my daily watch list formed type thing.
I'd love to see, maybe you can do this on the channel because you're going to do more videos on this channel. I'd love to see your morning like a morning routine video. I know already you've gone through it in the Discord, but it'd be cool to have a video. I did my morning routine video on the channel
Oh yeah,
last week,
100%.
and people loved it. It was this one here, my $1 million morning routine. So this is mine, but it'd be cool to have yours as well.
Man, your video's looking pro. Hey?
Yeah, we got the new studio, the pro editing. So we've gone up a notch, and people are really enjoying them. Like if you even look at the views, like this one's already on 20K after a day. My views have been average recently, but this, like, I had comments. I actually have multiple people reach out to me and tell me that this one here, the make your first 100K in crypto video, was the best video I've ever made. Like a lot of the comments, like sometimes I get bad comments, right? That's, the nature of the market. But this one had almost no negative comments and a lot of really, really positive comments. And I had a few people reach out to me and say it was their favorite video. So I'm glad people are enjoying it. We're obviously there's a lot more work that goes into these videos because it's, scripting and planning. So the information's good. Then there's, recording, then there's editing. So it's like more difficult than this, for example, but I'm glad people are enjoying the new style of videos. Just to give you some updates, they're coming out every weekend. So we're running more market-based stuff during the week because things are crazy. And then on the weekends, that's where we drop evergreen, just so there's like a differentiation between, the two styles of content for people.
I just bookmarked that video. I haven't checked it out yet.
You should. I think people, I genuinely think there's good alpha there. Like even, it's funny, even me watching my own video, I'm like, Miles, that's a great point. Like I need to do this more because like there's stuff that I used to do that I was reflecting on. Like, yeah, every morning I would check June analytics of the top sector that I was looking into. And then if there was an outlier on TVL versus, and then I'm thinking, oh, that's actually very smart. Like why aren't I still doing that? So I've actually reincorporated some things into my routine that I used to do just because of the video, which is funny, actually.
Yeah, I've had the same thing. People asking me for advice on the server and I give it to them like, that's actually really good advice. I don't even follow it myself anymore. I went and bought a massive whiteboard in my studio. Now it's there and it's got my literal like daily process start to finish just to remind me not to miss anything.
How is actually I want to ask you a question on that. How, because I have this, so I have like two things each day. I've got my daily routine, which is like shit that I have to do. And if I don't do it, like the business falls apart or my trading falls apart. And then there's like all the other to-do list stuff, which is like, obviously you should be doing it, but it's optional, so to speak. Do you find having it on a whiteboard or like physically for the repetitive stuff is better? Or do you find doing it in like, because I use ClickUp or Apple Notes, do you think that's better? Because I've been toying between it.
I love Trello because I love those Kanban boards or whatever they're called. They resonate with how I get stuff done. But the problem with software is you have so much in your computer, it's kind of up to you to look at it. So you have to have that in your daily routine to make sure you check that first. This thing with the whiteboard, that's like my hard and fast locked in process each morning. That's just there and doesn't get changed. I may as well write it on the whiteboard in permanent ink. So yeah,
and I actually think I think there's a good tactic there of like have your to-do list like on Trello or something, like your general to-do list and like big picture goals, but then maybe on the whiteboard have like your like top 3 priority things each day, and like every day you have to get them done. Because like if you actually think about business and life, kind of going a bit off topic here, but like rarely any given day are like 10 to 15 tasks very important and crucial. Usually each day there are like 2 to 3 needle moving things that if you do them, that is like pushing things forward. So by outlining them at the start of each day or the night before, like what those 3 things are, I think you'll end up, as long as you get them done, then everything else is a bonus. You'll end up probably making more progress than trying to do everything. Because I get in this trap of like, I really struggle with to-do lists because I'll see it'll be 20 things, and then I'll start picking the wrong things. Like, oh, let me, Twitter research, let me do that. When like there's like this glaring like issue that needs to be addressed. So it's almost like procrastination.
Yeah,
through to-do lists.
That's what I do too. I cherry pick the thing I want to do, which is generally not the thing I should do. So
yeah,
the thing I think about a whiteboard as well is like it's just the sort of nostalgic habitual thing built into you. You'll watch the teacher do it at primary school or high school, whatever. So you kind of like have this thing ingrained in you to respect and make sure you're looking at what's on the whiteboard. It kind of dawned on me a while ago, and I was staring at it just blankly. I was like, yeah, this reminds me of just being in school. That's why I have like a laser focus on it. Depends how good a student you were, but yeah, I was terrible. But
I was also pretty bad. It's
always
funny
telling you
because
to do it.
the worst students, from my experience, the worst students have many of them have actually been the most successful since school. I'm only this is my 7th year out of school, but yeah, most of the like high performing kids weren't that good. Like I wasn't bad. I was pretty smart, but not applying myself. ADHD, probably similar to you, just like not focused. Or like when I liked a subject, I would ace it, but then I'd fail subjects just because I just did not care. And that was the biggest problem.
That's me too. Should we jump to some alts quickly? I just realized I've been ignoring the
let's do a rapid round of alts.
Yeah.
And then I've got to go to boxing. I'm actually 7 minutes late after being 15 minutes late. So I'm 22 minutes late.
I think a lot of the things I'm watching right now are obviously things in spaghetti charts are just intraday. Obviously, BTC rejecting at that 106K levels just going to be a no-no. I'm definitely looking for lower in BTC, so I'm not rushing into anything at the moment. I'm just sort of refining my system and only taking select setups. But POPCAT's one on the radar if it gets back above this level here. I don't know sweep of these lows, but this all kind of looks like the head and shoulders pattern if anyone's trades like classical patterns. So just got to make sure this doesn't just deviate back inside and just nuke off, because this could be the story for a lot of alts right now. Cookie's actually been looking really good. I know there's something you've been trading as well. Came down, gave a perfect retest of like the prior market structure break level. It's been holding the noodle quite well. Reclaimed the 4-hour noodle, had a nice bounce off it. Now it's just pressuring into this structural level again. If it flips back above that at like 0.26, I can see this like making another attack probably into this imbalance up here. Actually, probably don't need to go through too many of them, but I do think if ETH breaks out, then your attention should solely be on ETH beta. So look at PEPE, look at ENA, look at PENDLE. Just have a list like that. Like I've got all these dedicated lists depending on what breaks out. You can see right here, like if ETH breaks out, I immediately go to my ETH beta watch list, and I'm just looking for what's strongest on the day and just taking longs based on that. And I think that's what most people should do. If Sol starts really ticking over, or AVAX Eco or whatever, then you just go into that list, and that's what you should be trading. And arguably Sol Eco looks a lot better today, probably because it's full of memes, but yeah. So I think people should pay attention to doing that. If they, having a down period like this, you could make lists like that for when these things happen. But yeah, that's kind of my focus is just on those if ETH breaks out.
If you're a trader and you don't have this and you have your whiteboard and you're writing your priority list for the morning, this is the thing I would add first. Just like spend a day. I recently did this and I put it off for literally weeks. But like just spend a whole day just categorizing your trading view. Just one day, just pick a day, Sunday, Saturday, and just do it once, and then it'll probably save you a lot of pain, and it'll find you a lot of opportunities just through the function of being organized and aware.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. And obviously, like if you get trading view desktop, you can see all these different tabs up here. You can switch between them all for different things. Like I have the VWAP on multi-windows for BTC analysis each day. You got your sector spaghetti, your normal spaghetti. It just makes, if things start to pump, there's nothing sort of more stressful than when the market pumps really hard, because you're scrambling around like, shit, I don't have a plan. What do I do? Pardon me, sorry. So, when that happens, when you have a plan and your trading view is set up like perfectly, then you can act without having to sort of learn the controls, so to speak. But yeah, I've got videos on that in the server too, if anyone wants to learn this stuff, like how to set up your trading view, different templates, stuff you can download. But yeah, something I am watching at the moment is FARTCOIN. So obviously massive daily trend respector, bullish structure the whole way up. Structure has shifted here. We've lost daily market structure finally. Now this is pretty much the point of it needs to flip this level here, or it'll probably, come down some. But I think if FARTCOIN gets back above here, above the daily noodle and this structure reclaim, this is probably a pretty good long, and had a near perfect bounce off $1, big psychological level. So always something to pay attention to. But yeah, that 1.19 level is something I'm watching heavily at the moment. TRX is just on the list because I've been trading spot in it, but like this thing's basically trading like a stable coin at this point. It just refuses to go up, but it is respecting the daily noodle still. I just think it's one of the most bullish charts out there. I'm just looking for this eventually, this wick fill if we get it. So obviously we need probably BTC to crack all-time high for this, but I think TRX would be such a good buy. Or just accumulating here if that happens. Easy invalidation on just losing this level down here.
It's been ridiculously strong. Like
It's
the rest
been
of the market's
ridiculously
pulled back
slow
and it just it's like a stable coin.
Yeah.
But strong.
It's in a tight range, right? Now, if it breaks out of that tight range, this thing is well, who knows? Maybe it'll just continue to rule my life and range more. But everything nuked and this barely moves. So I haven't sold any of my position yet. But while it's in that range, I'm just looking for a break of the range high. And that's all your trading needs to be. Like if you have something like the noodle, like a trending indicator, it's supported by trend, it's supported by static support. I always refer to this like static versus dynamic resistance or support. If it's holding those two things, you're all good. And then if it loses it, you have a very simple invalidation. That's where you cut the trade when it loses trend and loses support. You don't even need to overthink trading that much in this market, like in trending markets. You're just looking for those two things. And then, if you break out above a resistance level, you're just looking for the noodle to come up and get a nice retest around that resistance level with the noodle. And that's like your entry. So very simple stuff. But yeah, that's all I'm watching at the moment. Bonk. That was another example I was giving with the whole deviation thing or a reclaim. Other than that, not much to go over. I'm just watching ETH beta if ETH starts to rip, and that's pretty much it for now. And obviously, I'll be looking at memes after this video because they're showing the most strength on Spaghetti currently. But,
cool.
When you see this just sideways chop in like a noodle, in the Spaghetti chart, that just indicates you're in a pretty dead session. Like Asia session isn't popping much today. So this thing you can have one glance in the morning and I can say to myself, well, I don't think there's much to trade today just based on this. I won't even bother looking at other charts. So anything to have. But yeah, I think we can leave it there if you're all good.
Yep. Keep it under 40. Yep. Thanks for joining. We'll run another one on Thursday a bit later. Yep. And we'll update people with what happens. I've got a show later today, so notifications on for that. Still don't know what I'm doing a show on, but I'll make that decision later in the day when I have more information. Yeah.
Do a breakdown on whiteboards, all different types.
Yeah, I'll just do a whiteboard review video.
Whiteboard special, yeah. I'm sure there probably is a whiteboard review channel out there. It's be riveting, I bet.
But let me look it up quickly. Whiteboard reviews.
Man, I hope it happens. I hope it's a thing.
I don't know if it's a dedicated. There's lots of reviews on whiteboards, but I don't know if it's a dedicated channel. Everyone's using digital whiteboards, which I actually kind of hate. I bought one and I hate it. Yeah.
No way. Yeah. Well, there you go. There's an untapped niche. So if anyone's watching, there's a business for you.
There's an opportunity. All right. Cool. I'll see you guys later. Peace.
See ya.